Thank you, Chair. And I have some questions in relation to Palantir, if I can start with that. What due diligence, I understand the fund has some 100 million, perhaps more, in Palantir. What due diligence did you conduct on Palantir's human rights record before investing over 100 million? And were there concerns that you discovered or have hold yourself about mass surveillance without consent, which I understand Palantir has been accused of? Were they considered disqualifying factors in your placement of that investment?
Will Heatherton, Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, Future Fund Management Agency. Thank you. So the investment that the board has in Palantir, which I think is reported about 103 million, you say, is held through two index-focused investment managers. So the board sets the overall strategy in terms of the risk exposures that we seek, but the actual selection of stocks and the application of strategies, and in this case they're effectively passive index tracking strategies, is a matter for the managers. So we're not involved in selecting individual stocks.
So you haven't pursued with them a request to investigate issues around Palantir's reputation, given a growing body of media stories about their technology being used to track and deport immigrants?
So our focus in this space is really thinking first of all around sanctions and the application of sanctions, then the application of the board's exclusions policy, which we've talked about, and focuses on the economic activities that are subject to treaties or conventions that the Australian government has ratified. So we don't get to the level of detail of looking at individual stocks in the portfolio in that sense. Of course, Palantir is a US company, and so our focus in engagement and stewardship is on our Australian holdings, where we are able to engage more effectively and we understand the market better. So that's our focus. We do expect, and of course we exercise our voting rights in offshore companies as well.
We live in a very changing world, and many Australians are horrified by what they see in America and the work of the horrific experience being imposed on immigrants in the US. So is this on your radar? Will you publicly release your full rationale for this investment and give an undertaking to review it in view of the changing nature of Palantir's activities and their dire consequences for many very vulnerable people?
I think, Senator, I've explained the rationale for the holding and how we construct a portfolio, and a very diversified portfolio. I would observe that Palantir is a very widely held stock by investors globally, but certainly in our conversations with our managers, these are the sorts of issues that we typically raise.
Many stocks are widely held, which we would not want Australian investment in, and as your exclusions clearly illustrate. Do you have plans to get out of this investment in Palantir, given the controversy, the growing controversy that surrounds the nature of their work and their activities?
Senator, we'll continue to engage with our managers to make sure that they understand the issues, and we consider and they consider those in their investment decisions. But the individual stock selection is really a matter for those fund managers.
Will the Future Fund commit to divesting from Palantir and establishing clear ethical investment standards that exclude companies profiting from surveillance, a massively growing problem around the globe, profiting from surveillance, from weapons and from human suffering arising from the technologies that Palantir have developed and are purveying around the globe?
Senator, the board has a responsible investment policy, and we've talked about this before, and we've talked about the update of the belief. The application of that and how we approach that and the evolution of that is something that we continue to consider and will continue to do so, but I can't here and now commit to what you're asking.
Minister, do you have a view about Palantir's reputation the nature of its products and the way they're being used to punitively pursue and to racially profile with terrible outcomes for immigrant workers in places like the US now?
Well, I think you've heard the evidence from the Future Fund. I would say, and I've answered this way before in relation to questions like this, the Future Fund Board invests independently of government. We legally cannot direct the Future Fund to invest in particular areas or otherwise. It's part of the legislative framework that surrounds the Future Fund Board. What we can do is shape the investment mandate, which we have done and amended that, but we have particular responsibilities.
But you have set already specific exclusions, Minister, in relation to particular armaments, to military investments, very specific. Similarly in relation to tobacco. Why would you not be... we're in such a changing universe now around the military, the expansion of military investments which are being used with such appalling effect around our planet. Why wouldn't you be... You already do it. Why wouldn't you be regularly revisiting the ethical basis of these investments?
Well, we do consider these matters in relation to the investment mandate and other guidance we provide, but in the Future Fund and the Future Fund Board make decisions independently of ministers, as it should be, and as they did in this case.